The Philadelphia Eagles do it again. Howie Roseman makes a huge splash here at the end of training camp. We're going to break down all of the details and talk about what it means for both the cornerback competition and the team's mindset as a whole. We'll get into it all, but welcome into A to Z Philly. I'm RB, and as you can see, we are not in the normal setup right now. I'm actually on vacation, and I was getting ready to go to sleep and be back there in a couple days in the normal flow of things. And boom, what do you know? Howie Roseman keeps you on your toes all of the time. Why? Because we go back to what he said, a few weeks ago, a month ago? He is going to do whatever it takes to upgrade this team. He sees a weakness. He sees maybe a competition at training camp where things aren't going necessarily according to plan. He says, boom, I'm going to survey the playing field and go strike and make something happen. So we're here to react to it all. This happened a little while ago, and I wanted to dive in and get some information. But first and foremost, Jeff McLean puts it here on Twitter. The Eagles have acquired cornerback Jakorian Bennett from the Raiders for Thomas Booker pending a physical. Bennett is a former fourth-round pick back in 2023. He has 11 career starts in 2 seasons. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Thomas Booker has had a solid camp, but also undrafted defensive tackle Gabe Hall is coming on. So first and foremost, shout out to Thomas Booker. He's forever a Super Bowl champion. And if you remember at the beginning of last season, before the Eagles absolutely erupted, it was Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis trying to get into the flow of things. Thomas Booker was holding down the fort. Now, again, Thomas Booker's not some superstar player, but just as a rotational piece, maybe a second, third string guy who can just come in, give you some valuable snaps here and there, I thought Thomas Booker had a pretty good season for the Eagles. And we'll get to the Raiders here in just a second, but the Eagles have a cornerback coming in. And obviously, like I said, I've been away for a little bit, but cornerback has been our highlight, right? Our focus, Adoree, Jackson, Kelee, Ringo, and Vic Fangio spoke to the media the last couple of days, and he pretty much said it is very tight. He said out of all of the training camp battles, that has been the tightest. Those guys are neck and neck. The former fourth-round pick Kelee Ringo and the guy in Adoree Jackson, who's been around at different teams, who's a bit older, who's here on a one-year deal, who a week ago, Vic Fangio sat there and said, it's time for this guy to essentially put up or shut up. So anyway, the Eagles acquire a cornerback. Shout out to Thomas Booker. We appreciate him. But in terms of Jakorian Bennett, as Jeff McLean says, he will now get tossed into the cornerback mix. He will compete for the open spot on the outside. Read into what you will about how that competition has gone. Vic Fangio confirmed what has been obvious. Nobody is separated from the pack. Now, Elliott Shore-Parks adds a little bit on top of that, saying that Gabe Hall now has a really good chance to make the team. If we look at the Eagles depth chart, which, by the way, the first rendition of it was actually put out, I think, yesterday or today. And if we look at the DT position, right, we have Jordan Davis, we have Jalen Carter, we have Ty Robinson, a third-round pick. But Thomas Booker was listed here on the second team as well. And like it said, he was having a really good camp. But you survey the playing field, you have these relationships, especially in Las Vegas, right? Think about the Raiders. They just acquired a couple pieces of the personnel team from the Eagles, brought them over, gave them promotions. And Howie Roseman has talked a lot about these strong relationships and why it's good to have them. Hey, you can call on your buddy here or you can call on your buddy there. So there are some really close ties there with the Eagles and the Raiders. They call them up. They say, hey, we need some DT depth right now, right? I've even talked to a few people in the last hour or so who said, yeah, the Raiders were pretty much lacking at the defensive tackle. And, obviously they are in an interesting situation this year with Pete Carroll, and they're trying to get back in the mix. So they call up the Eagles, and Howie says, yeah, I'll give you Thomas Booker. Why not? So anyway, Thomas Booker's now off the depth chart. That means the Eagles must feel good about Gabe Hall. But yeah, we talked about Gabe Hall a little bit back when the Eagles signed their undrafted players. He was one of the names that came up. He was undrafted, but 6'6", almost 300 pounds. He's a monster, and he is turning some heads at camp. So we will keep our eyes on him. But in terms of the Raiders, why did they do this? Obviously, they were desperate for some defensive tackle depth. And Howie said, we'll give you one of our backups, especially with how our team's playing out. Keep your eyes on Moro Ojomo as well. Obviously, he's one of the guys we said have to step up this year. former 7th-round pick, Super Bowl champion, but he has also been really making some noise at training camp. As I've been looking at some of the training camp tweets here and there the last couple of days, Moro Ojomo's name keeps coming up, right? Sacking Jalen Hurts and, getting to the quarterback, generating a ton of pass rush, and he looks really good so far. So we believe in Moro Ojomo, and he showed us a lot of flashes last year, but he's starting to step up. But on the other hand, we look at Tashawn Reed here on Twitter, who says Jakorian Bennett played well last year for the Raiders, but he suffered a season-ending torn labrum. This year, he lost ground in the Raiders cornerback battle. He was 4th behind Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, and DeCamerion Richardson. While he has speed, Pete Carroll prefers taller and longer cornerbacks. And from just doing a little quick research and talking to a few people, apparently this guy, Jakorian Bennett, was really good in press man coverage. He's a little bit lackluster when it comes to zone, but Vic Fangio knows how to, really sharpen iron. You know what I mean? Vic Fangio knows how to bring guys in his system and get them to work. And Eagles are also a little bit light on the nickel corner right now. This guy is only 5'11", 6 feet tall, little bit on the thinner, quicker side. Maybe that's exactly what the Eagles need. And if we look at a few stats here from Jakorian Bennett, his ranks among NFL cornerbacks with 450-plus snaps, 18 receptions allowed, that was 3rd, 37 targets, 176 yards allowed, which was 2nd, no touchdowns allowed, which was tied for 1st. He had 9 pass breakups, tied for 4th, a 62.4 quarterback rating against, and he held Jamar Chase to 3 for 16 with a pass breakup. So a lot of people are hype on this guy right now. He's only 24 years old. He's only been in the NFL for a couple seasons. Last year, he had, 7 games started, like we said, and the year before his rookie year, he had 4 games started. And apparently in Las Vegas, even though they were a bad team, he became one of their better corners. So it is a little surprising that they would give up on him like that. They signed Eric Stokes in the offseason. They drafted a guy in the 3rd round. But to give up on a really young piece like that is just a music to the ears of Howie Roseman. And again, it goes back to what I say time and time again. This guy doesn't miss. Even if Jakorian Bennett doesn't become our cornerback 2 and a stud for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the fact that Howie is willing to do whatever it takes to get better. Right? He said, we have all these draft picks for next year, but we don't have to use all of them for next year. If there's an upgrade we want, guess what? Boom, we're going to go get it. We want to increase competition. Boom, we're going to get it. And that mindset and mentality not only shows how much he has improved as a GM and is aware of his surroundings, but it shows that the Eagles are all in. They want to do it. They want to go back again and win the whole thing. And it's just really exciting in terms of being an Eagles fan right now. Jeff Kerr adds this: Jakorian Bennett allowed a 52.1 passer rating in coverage as the primary defender last season. 0 touchdowns allowed, 0 interceptions, 4.4 yards per attempt, and opposing quarterbacks completed just 45% of their passes against him. So I'm really excited about this guy. No matter what happens, I think it's just going to help the overall competition. Like I said, Kelee's had his ups and downs so far in camp. Adoree Jackson's had his ups and downs. Vic Fangio's been very honest about it, but now those guys are going to take it to another level. They're going to go one step further to try to win that job. And Ted Nguyen, who writes and covers for The Athletic here, says, never trade with Howie. I get that Bennett doesn't fit Carroll's profile, but he was so productive last season and is so young. Don't like this trade. Just to give a similar example, look at what happened in 2023. The Eagles didn't have a defensive scheme that fit some of their personnel. They were thinking about trading guys, getting rid of some. What do? They bring in Vic Fangio, and look at the way these guys elevated last season. Overall, another great fit, another great piece, another great trade. You don't even give up draft capital here. You give up Thomas Booker, who most likely was not going to get snaps, or at least that many for the Eagles anyway in 2025. And it's another great move by Howie Roseman. So we'll see how some of these camp battles play out. Obviously, this is a late trade, so this guy will have to get acclimated to the Eagles playbook and figure things out there. But it feels like a win-win for both sides. And now the Eagles have another guy in the mix at corner 2. Give me your thoughts down below. Do you think he can win the job? Should they stick with Kelee, Ringo, or Adoree Jackson? How do you feel about this? Give me your thoughts down below. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. and I'll catch you on the next one.